All right, everybody. Y'all can hear me? You guys good? Audio okay? Visuals okay? All right, then let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Someone made a Twin Towers joke, and then I just realized it's 9/11 today. Remember in school? Do they still? Okay, time out. Is anybody still in high school? Is anyone still in school? I need to know this. Is anyone still in school? Who's in school right now? Not college, normal school. Yeah, give some likes for me being on time, relatively speaking. Okay. So, when I was in school, every September 11th, every September 11th, some people are saying they're in kindergarten, good to know. Every September 11th, they would have us do a moment of silence. So everyone just shuts up and it's like a minute long and you're in silence for that. Do they still do that? Because I feel like for so many people, you weren't even alive when the Twin Towers thing happened. So then it's kind of like, what am I even doing the moment of silence for? I was just at the. You know what's funny? I've heard that the divide between millennial age and Gen Z was decided based on whether or not the age that it was estimated that people would be able to remember the Twin Towers or not, the 9/11 thing or not. I was just at the age where I was able to process and understand that something really, I was able to understand what just happened, basically. Just at that age. I think I was in kindergarten or first grade. Maybe I was even in second grade. I was somewhere in that range. We're done? We don't do that anymore? Oh, I forgot. Some of you guys are not even in the US. Yeah, so then you guys have. Listen, I understand for lots of people not in the US, it's like, don't you guys make a big deal out of 9/11 and stuff? And it's like, yeah, but that's like, it's US privilege where we're so used to being the ones that dish out violence and stuff like that to other people that we don't fully, like, for us, when something bad happens to us, it's like, that's the end of the world. Like, this is just, like, what's going on? Is it like opposite day with this is so, it fucks with our heads so hard that it just becomes a huge deal for us for like the next 20 years. Like, fuck, you remember 9/11? Holy shit. Can't believe that shit happened to us for once. That's crazy. Oh my god. Anyway. Yeah. So, we're going to talk about the One Piece live action, that's for sure. I see a lot of people already before the stream started. First of all, let's get the stream to 100 likes. Before the stream started, I saw a lot of people being like, why is Garp in the thumbnail? Like, Garp wasn't even that bad, etc. I don't even think Garp was bad anymore. I mean, I still really strongly dislike that, and I would still list it as one of the worst changes. But I've heard so many different things from different people that now I'm like, okay, we can leave Garp alone a little bit. We're not going to talk about Garp too much. We'll talk about him a little bit, but we can talk about other stuff. I could have thrown Usopp in the thumbnail, but Garp is just more, just more clicky, Lotsa made it says, in Australia we do a minute of silence for Anzac Day. See, it's fucked up that I don't even know what that is. We never learned about that in my school. I don't know what Anzac Day is. Let's find out. It's probably going to be something really sad. Lest we forget. Oh, it just covers everybody. Covers all the Australians and New Zealanders for some reason who served and died in all the wars, conflicts, and peacekeeping operations. Ah, so is that kind of like our Veterans Day? Because for that we just don't go to school. So I guess it's a little different how we honor people. Knut Worgen, thanks for the 2. NFOP feels more like PTS versions. Okay, so Netflix, One Piece, Straw Hats feel more like post-time skip versions. You know PTS means both things, right? It means PTS and post-TS. It's just PT. It works both ways, right? Andre U54 says, you think Usopp is bad, really? I think the actor is good. I like the actor. I think that most of us would have hoped that we got a bit more for Usopp character-wise that I think East Blue had for him. That's all I'm saying. But we'll get into it. Eincrust, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for a month. I hope you enjoyed the podcast last week, the Pirate King exclusive podcast. Hi, Mordsoft. Okay, so you did listen to it. Mordsoft, thanks for the response on my question about FromSoft games. Oh, you were the one who submitted the question about FromSoft games. So I will admit, for the last Pirate King tier podcast, because it's one where you can submit questions about any and every topic, and I tend to respond or explain at length my thoughts on it. Uncrust asked me about FromSoft games, so like Dark Souls games, stuff like that. And I think I spent like a good 10 minutes talking about just that topic. Everyone check out the Pirate King Morgecast. You guys heard it from Uncrust, not me. I fully support it, though. I think it's a good podcast. Thoughts on current Chainsaw Man chapters and read Fire Punch. Dude, I'll never remember to read Fire Punch. I just think it won't happen. I think because I keep putting off binging stuff that I've been putting off. I don't know. But current Chainsaw Man, I haven't read Chainsaw Man in a few weeks, so I don't know what's happening right now exactly. I like the direction it was going last we saw with Asa reacting to seeing her name on the newspaper, or not news, television and everything like that. So I like the direction. I'm just going to let it build up a little bit. You know what I did watch this weekend, which I had a ton of fun watching? 1,000 Year Blood War. I'll talk about that later in stream. But I would strongly recommend that if you just want to watch an anime. This weekend I had enough time to basically, I randomly had like a do nothing, like a weekend which was just blank, and it felt great. And I was just like, let me watch something. And I was like, no, this weekend is too precious to spoil. It's a blank weekend. I have it just for me. There's nothing on the schedule. It's too prime to spoil on Baki. So let's watch something a little bit better. So everyone's been talking about 1,000 Year Blood War, so I watched 1,000 Year Blood War. Ton of fun watching that. They're really, really, really making it way, way, way better than the manga. But the thing is, even by the time I was wrapping the latest episodes, I was like remembering the same, because like you can polish it up so much and like make it look so much. It is really, really fucking beautiful watching episodes of 1,000 Year Blood War. It is really, really, really dope. Like they do some really artistic stuff throughout that. That being said, despite acknowledging that, I still already see the things writing-wise, character-wise that I didn't enjoy reading the manga. So it had me convinced almost. Like I was getting through 1,000 Year Blood War. I was like, you know what? Maybe the manga was just really good too, and we were all just too stupid to see it at the time. But then as season 2 or core 2 of it progressed, I was kind of just like, no, the fights are cool. It's fun if you're just, giving in. The animation is beautiful. The production is beautiful. And again, like a lot of the sequences are really, really artistically thought out. But that being said, it's kind of just, you can't really change or erase the core structure, the core writing of the arc, and I feel like that's still there. But we'll talk about that later. But it has made me appreciate, again, the joy that Bleach can bring. Cloakseas, thanks for the 2. No spectators for Zoro versus Mihawk was horrible in my opinion. Really? I just think that's... You guys gotta remember, having spectators for this sort of stuff, I feel like no spectators for Arlong Park was worse, because in that case, you're freeing the village. Zoro versus Mihawk, it's a personal duel. The spectators add so much to it, but at the end of the day, with live action, it's hard, like, these extras aren't cheap. At the end of the day, that stuff costs money. So, it's also harder to justify having a bunch of spectators there when you're not doing the whole Don Krieg battle. It's kind of, at the end of the day, it's just a duel. So, the core characters that matter is Zoro and Mihawk and the Straw Hat Pirates that are witnessing the whole thing. The spectators definitely, again, they add to the ambience of it. They add to the hype of Mihawk, because they're talking about, how crazy Mihawk is. He doesn't even have a devil fruit, yada yada. I saw some reactions of, because I like going back to watch the One Piece live action reactions, especially of episode 5. Some reactors, I remember one was even like, oh, does this guy have a devil fruit too? Because he was beating Zoro that badly. And I was like, oh, if it was the anime, then they would have clarified, no, he doesn't even have a devil fruit. But, you know, I really don't think no spectators is a problem for that. I think Zoro versus Mihawk, I definitely think the anime is definitely better for that fight, and especially everything, I think, especially from Zoro having his heart pierced and him explaining why he can't step back, everything from there through Zoro giving his oath to Luffy, I think it's clearly better in the anime. And I say the anime here because I experienced it first in the anime. Manga as well, it's obviously better, but I think anime is probably the best experience for that whole scene, right? I think that it's better there. I would say that the way that gives Mihawk that introduction versus the fleet and Don Krieg, not the fleet, but you know, all the explosions and just like casually killing all these pirates and like cutting the ship and Don Krieg, I feel like that introduction was a bit cooler even than in the anime or manga, but I could see going either way on that. So you gain something, you lose something, you know, with the medium change. Javon Johnson, do you think the final saga will be the best in One Piece? I think it definitely has the potential. I think for me, I think no doubt it is going to go down for a lot of people as the best saga in One Piece. Just because it's going to deliver on so much action, so many reveals, so many just hype moments. I think no matter what, as long as it doesn't end up just being really rushed, which I don't think Oda is going to do just based on the way things are pacing out so far. As long as it's not going to be rushed, I think that for a lot of people will be the best. For me personally, as long as we get everything we've been getting, but also get a lot of focus, character writing for the Straw Hats, I mean, this is it. This is the end of their journey, right? We didn't get much for them in, like they didn't do anything in Wano till, like, they were fighting the character, like, fighting the beast parts and stuff, and then they get a little bit of stuff. They didn't, like, half of them are sidelined in Dressrosa, not too prominent, like, sure, most of the New World, the Straw Hats have not been that prominent, right? This final saga, I feel like they really, 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 really need to be important. I feel like they really, really, really need to be important. I feel like this is the storyline where everything should come together for them. I feel like all of the best stuff that he's been saving for their characters, if he's been saving it for here, if he's got all of his best ideas, like Oda has said, he said in the past that he's saved all of his best ideas for the final section of One Piece. So, you know, I'm hoping for high things out of the main characters, the Straw Hats. As long as we can get that, plus everything we're already seemingly getting with these last several arcs, I will probably end up thinking the final saga is the best saga in One Piece. So, we'll have to see. Guys, let's get the likes up to 100. Opapa says, Iñaki was speaking in Viz Media. I don't know what that means, but that's good to know. What does that mean? Sleep Hut, thanks for the 5. Super chat to Warge, thanks for putting me on to Undead Unluck. Read the first 30-something chapters, peak fiction. I would definitely recommend Undead Unluck to anybody who's looking for a surprisingly fun new shonen to read with a really fucking cool concept. It has... there's some shonen that I think have really great concepts. I think Chainsaw Man is one. Undead Unluck, I think, is just the simple premise that it... I'll say this, okay? See if you guys find this interesting. The premise and the lore that is set up for Undead Unluck, it's the most interesting... It is the most interesting lore and premise, I suppose, that has gotten me hooked in the shortest amount of time. Does that make sense? Like, yeah, One Piece, amazing lore, all of that stuff, very vast, very, very dense. You know, it takes a long time to build it up and make it really interesting. Undead Unluck, once you get a little bit in, like this guy said, 30 chapters in? What'd you say? Sleep Hut said 30 chapters. I don't know if everything's kind of set up within those 30 chapters, but yeah, it just sets up a lore concept that is... I guess it gets you hooked faster than almost any... I'd say Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan gets you hooked faster on the lore, faster than any other series. Because I think from day fucking 1 in Attack on Titan, you're like chapter 1, you're like, oh my god, what the fuck is going on? Like, why are these Titans outside the walls, etc., etc. So Undead Unluck is not that fast. It's not Attack on Titan fast, but I think everybody says get through. So the problem with Undead Unluck is that the first 15, 16 chapters are just like so fucking stupid and generic, and like it makes you think it's just like trash tier. It's just a trash tier shonen story. So it really took the fact that so many people were pushing, hey, you have to get through like 17 or 18 chapters. Just get through that much, and your entire concept of what the story is will change, and the entire way it's written will change. So if you're willing to get through that hump with Undead Unluck, like just power through the beginning bit, because it truly is awful, genuinely awful, yeah, then you can potentially hit a series that's really, really fucking interesting. Mark Hogan, thanks for the 5. When do you see Mihawk fighting Zoro? An epilogue to wrap Zoro's arc feels anticlimactic. Maybe Cross Guild will be an obstacle to finding the One Piece. Mihawk versus Zoro, I don't think it's an epilogue. Again, I just don't think the people that imagine Zoro versus Mihawk as the climax to One Piece is not the climax, but the final fight of One Piece is kind of crazy. I still think that Zoro fights Mihawk some way over the course of, you mentioned Cross Guild, right? So I think somewhere in the next few arcs, honestly, because I feel like the way things are going to wrap is we wrap the pirate section of the story first, and then it's the world government section, right? World government is the final arc. So penultimate arc, or maybe the arc before the penultimate arc. Is there a word for that? What's before penultimate? Let's see. What is before penultimate? So there's a word for it. I think most of us are learning something new today. If you already knew this word, congratulations to you. Antepenultimate. Antepenultimate is third from the last. So either the penultimate or antepenultimate arc of the series, I feel like that'll be Zoro versus Mihawk. Sleep Hut says, was just going to say it's only beaten by Attack on Titan lol. Yeah, Attack on Titan, it is so easy to understand why Attack on Titan became the success that it is, because it's so difficult to get people to try anime, right? But you can usually get someone to try one episode of something, right? Like with Naruto or Bleach or One Piece or whatever, you'd have to be like, hey, try One Piece, but this is pre-live action, right? Try One Piece, but we need to get like 20, 30 episodes in. Or like even Naruto, it's like, okay, just finish out the fucking Hidden Rain Mist Village arc or something, right? With Attack on Titan, it's just like, look, I know you don't like anime, but just give me one. Just give me one episode. Give me one episode and you won't be able to drop it. Because I have a friend who shits on anime, right? Not super, what do you call? Not super tight anymore, but tight enough, I suppose. Basically, he was like a high school friend that I stayed in touch with through mutual friends, right? And he really, really shits on anime in general, and he's one of the classic, like, just white people that just view that stuff as, like, too nerdy, too cringe, etc. He eventually tried Attack on Titan. I don't know who got him to try it or whatever, and he became a huge Attack on Titan fan. So it was weird just being able to talk with him about Attack on Titan, and that's it's an anime. It feels surreal that I could talk to him about an anime, right? Other friends of ours, other friends of his, tried to get him to try other series, as far as I understand, and he said that stuff was shit. So he's like, yeah, there's only one good anime, and it's Attack on Titan. So, I don't know. There's a lot of people like that out there. There's only one good anime, it's Attack on Titan. That's funny, but the reality is, like, there are a lot of normie people that have that sentiment. You know, they find one anime that they think is good, they're like, this is nothing like the... You know what's hilarious? Because, like, over the last several years, I have had friends who are not anime fans who've, like anime has just gotten more popular, right? I've had friends who are not anime fans who have tried one series or another. So I've had one friend who had been trying to get into One Piece, like a friend from college who had been trying to get into One Piece for the longest time. He was like, this is stupid, blah, 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 not watching anime. And then he got into My Hero Academia. And he just had such a small, like, he has no concept of other anime because he hasn't really tried them. So he's just convinced that My Hero Academia is, like, totally different from other anime because he likes it. So he's just like, yeah, My Hero, I love it so much. It's like they made an anime that's just for me. It's so different from all other anime and stuff. I'm like, Motherfucker, you don't even know. You don't even... No. My Hero Academia is probably like... It's not a bad... I enjoy My Hero for as far as I watched it, for sure. But he has no idea that you can find the same shit you're seeing right here if you just tried Naruto. You could find the same shit you're seeing right here if you tried fucking, like, Black Clover or something like that. He just doesn't know. It just so happens that I think My Hero became popular enough in the West that there were just normie people that ended up trying it. So at some point during COVID, he picked up My Hero Academia, and he's just convinced that, like, wow, an anime that's not actually bad. I'm like, oh my god, fuck. One of the reasons I fucking hate the One Piece dub, by the way, is because I did at one point get that guy to try One Piece way back in college, but he tried, I told him just watch a few episodes, etc. He watched the dub because he refused to watch sub, and he came back being like, yeah, fucking hate Luffy. So, and that's because the dub voice actor for Luffy is terrible. Anyway, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole again, but point being, there's so many people who try just one anime, and then they're convinced that that's the only good anime because they just don't want to try anymore. I don't know how we got on this topic, but I don't know. Undead Unluck, I guess. Oh, point being, having a strong hook is really important. That's how Attack on Titan got so popular. Revolutionary Cleo, welcome to the Yonko. You can look forward to a podcast every week where I share my unfiltered thoughts on anything and everything that is going on in the story, as well as current videos that I've got out and everything. All right. Flame, thanks for the 10. Do you think Blackbeard's association with the number 3 is inspired by the Christian doctrine of the Trinity? If so, the chances of Blackbeard getting Luffy's God Fruit increases a lot. Blackbeard association with the number 3 inspired by the Christian doctrine of the Trinity. Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. That's, I hope I got it right, or people would be angry at me, right? I've never understood the Holy Spirit. Let's look that up real quick. Because I know the Son, that's Jesus, right? I know Dad, that's God. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. I've never understood. Somebody's explained it to me before. Oh, no. Wait, the Father's different from God. I thought God is the Father. Never mind, this is too much to unpack here. We're not going to break that down. If we're looking at Blackbeard's stuff, he's inspired by the number... the number 3 clearly is important with Blackbeard, but at the same time, I don't know. Inspired by the Christian doctrine of the Trinity, I don't know. Because, like, you can look at Hinduism, and they've also got a trinity of creators, not creators, but trinity of core gods. I think 3 is just an important number in general. Yeah, One Piece has biblical references, but it has references to a million different things, so I wouldn't personally read too much into that. Shit. I actually did get a haircut today, if you guys don't know, but right now it's in this. You guys might not realize. You might be like, "More, your hair looks the same as normal." That's because right now it's in the shaping phase. So I'm gonna keep you guys updated on the haircut situation because I'm trying to get really fucking long hair, but apparently that takes a long time commitment, and you need to keep getting it taken to get shaped and reshaped. So over time, I will eventually have a good long hair look, but at the moment it's in a growing out phase or something. Adam CR says, Mog, what's more iconic, Gear 5th or the Trump mugshot? I mean, I think it's obviously the Trump mugshot, right? But Gear 5th is more iconic for us. Ask again once the One Piece live action gets to it. Then we'll see. Drew K says, yeah, you'll never understand the Trinity in 10 minutes. Yeah, because that's why they need to get, that's how they get people coming back to church every Sunday, right? They gotta make it complicated as fuck. So you need full dissertations every Sunday to get the full breakdown, right? Because if it's too easy, if everyone could just read the Bible and like fully understand it, then what do they gotta come back to church for, right? So you gotta add a lot of extra stuff to it. That's my understanding, at the very least. Right? Because then you get to the page in the Bible, it's like the Father, the Son, Holy Spirit. You're like, I don't understand what this means. I guess I don't get into heaven. And then the pastor comes by. He's like, well, I'll explain it to you on this Sunday, but it'll take several sessions, maybe 50 or 60 sessions, so you'll be in there for a while. You know, there's a long time commitment. It's like, okay. I think that's how it works, right? Will, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 3 months. Will you ever get a new poster? I am trying to change this whole background around. This whole background. The poster is there. For a long time, it's because this poster just sold really well, because you guys just like Shanks. Now I'm like, now it's finally at a point where it's like, okay, we want to switch the poster, but I'm also at a point where I'm like, I want to change the whole background, so I'm not changing the poster at the moment till I can just redo the whole background pretty much. But hopefully the whole background can be changed in the next, like, I don't know. I'm hoping to get time to change it in the next, like, week or so. Most likely at the end of the day, I'm probably just going to have to pay someone to set some stuff up because I don't have, like, a time window to really set up everything I'd like to set up there in the background at the point. I had this weekend, but this weekend was, I needed a mental break. So I ended up watching 1,000 Year Blood War instead. Jolly D. Joe says church is a place of worship. I'm not trying to knock church. For the record, I'm not trying to knock church. But I also don't understand for most religions, because I had to go to, shoot, I don't even, we called it Mandir, right? Mandir, I'm pretty sure means temple. That's where I had to go for, okay. I had to go in, no, hold on. Why is it, yeah. Yeah, Mandir. My bad. So my family wasn't religious, but they still made me go to Mandir, which is temple, once in like every 6 months or a year or something like that. I'm just like, we don't worship at home. Why do we need to go here to worship? I don't know. Raffy D. Goat says, I showed One Piece live action to my mom. She thought Zoro was dead after the Mihawk fight. Yeah, that's the thing. It's crazy because I see I would watch reactions. I've gone and watched like a bunch of reactions to episode 5 in particular because it's, you know, it's a highlight one. It's got Mihawk, the Zoro fight, etc. And it's always, everybody's always taken aback with 2 moments: when he gets stabbed with the knife and then when he gets the big slash. Both those moments always elicit like legitimate whoa reactions, whereas if you're a seasoned One Piece viewer, even if you had never seen that scene before, right? Anytime anytime we're reading One Piece or a new One Piece chapter comes out, if a character takes a hit like that, it's so you don't even register it at this point. It's kind of just like, okay, that happened, moving on, right? we're so what's the word? What's the word? Desensitized. I can't believe I almost forgot the word desensitized. Yeah, we're so desensitized to it because we just know how One Piece works, right? We know that a character's not going to die like that, right? Until you need something a bit more severe or permanent or clear. I also think that the live action did a great job. I'm going to go ahead and put that as the first. Let's get into it, right? I'm going to put that as the first pro of the live action. First pro of the live action, you'll see in a second. Let me set it up for you guys, and then you'll see what the first pro of the live action is. Live action changes. In the meantime, I'll answer this. Mr. Crescent, thanks for the 5, man. My school didn't certify my loan, so I'm broke, but I'm buying a super anyway. Oh my god. Alright, that's good to hear. Do you actually like streaming? You're very good at it, but make good... Thank you, I appreciate it, but make good YouTube videos. So it's an either or. You're good at it, but you make good YouTube videos. Streaming is generally fun. Streaming is generally fun for me. Like, especially, it's a range, right? So, I will admit that streaming was the most fun for me back before I had a regular streaming schedule. Because back then, back then it was like you only stream when you're really, really like, oh, I really fucking want to stream right now. Like I really, yeah, you know what I mean? Like when you really, really want to, right? It's probably like, no, I assume it's the same for anything, right? So back before I had a regular streaming schedule, I would only stream when I really, really personally wanted to stream. Now I stream at a regular schedule, right? which is much healthier for the stream long term, and it's much better for building a community. And I like the fact that now that I stream every Monday and every Thursday that there's a chapter, I like the fact that doing that over time means that there's a lot of familiar faces and just a general rapport, I suppose, that gets built over time. And I know the jokes that you guys are coming in for the most part. You guys understand not to take me too seriously for the most part, etc., right? It's like Aaron says, "Dono, I'm poor." Mort says, "Good to hear." LMAO. So, yeah, it is good to hear. It's good to hear that you decided to. Anyway, so I like the fact that me sticking to a consistent schedule builds that, right? And streaming in and of itself, I really, really enjoy, for the simple reason that almost anyone will tell you it's fun to stream. Okay, here's the reason it's fun to stream. Because at the end of the day, streaming is just, it's like a free license to just, you're the only one that gets to talk, right? So you're just saying all the opinions you want to say. And, you know, you can just, you're the only voice, essentially, right? So you can get off all of your, all of your thoughts, and there's like, not, how do I say this? Like, for example, I could start a 5-10 minute long rant about how Law is weaker than Zoro and Sanji by a good amount, right? And how Law is weaker than pretty much every Yonko first mate, except for maybe Shiryu, right? I could go off on a 5 to 10 minute rant, and then everybody in chat could be telling me why I'm wrong. But at the end of the day, it wouldn't matter because I get to just spit out my opinion for however long. That's just the way it is, right? So streaming is fun. It feels very cathartic in a sense, right? And it's just fun. It's just fun. Like, you never know what's gonna happen. You never know what somebody's gonna say, what joke somebody's gonna come in with, what question somebody's gonna prompt. So streaming is legitimately a lot of fun. The only thing is that some days, if it's been a very long day or something like that, or there's been a shit ton of other stuff going on, then maybe the energy's not like a little bit lower or something like that. That's it. So that's the only reason I say, like, back before I had a regular streaming schedule and I could only stream when I'm 100% in the mood, that was different. But these days, basically, even if I've had a crazy long Monday, a bunch of other stuff going on, a bunch of other stressful stuff going on or something, then you're still trying to stream in the same roughly the same window. So that's the only thing, because sometimes you're like not 100% in the mood to, I suppose, be entertaining. And at the end of the day, stream is about being entertaining. But that's literally it's the most minor. Like, that's the most minor thing you could probably bring up, because at the same time, everybody fucking goes to work to 9-to-5 jobs, whether or not they're in the mood. So it's not a real complaint, if you understand what I'm saying. Just the only thought I have on it. But yeah, in general, I like streaming. Streaming's fun. Revolutionary Cleo, thanks for the 5. Since One Piece. Also, the last thing I'll say is that I've realized that streaming is great because if I didn't do since I've started doing streams a lot, it makes me more aware of what other people's, because I'm interacting all the time and I'm seeing responses to things I'm putting out. So it makes me much more aware of what other people's opinions are. And it makes me rethink some of my own opinions, because there are lots of times in streams I'll voice an opinion, then I'll see a lot of other people bringing up other stuff, and then somebody will have a really good point or something that reshapes the way that I think. So it probably in the long term, it makes... it just probably makes you a better, I suppose, or a more aware content creator, I suppose, right? It can change the way you think about, like, maybe I scrap a full video I was going to do, or maybe I rethink how I was going to do a video. You know what I mean? Chocolate Kieran. Good thing about stream, though, is chat can contribute to the entertainment. Yeah, I know a lot of you just want to talk to each other. You don't even want to see me. Helps take the load off when it's low energy, I imagine. Yeah. See, you have a check mark. This is called checkmark privilege. Because he's coming in with a check mark, I don't actually know who Chocolate Kieran is. But because he's coming in with a check mark, it's just like the polite thing to do to add him as moderator. So, we'll just do that. That's just checkmark privilege. It's just, I don't make the rules. It's the way it is. Revolutionary Cleo says, since One Piece doesn't have any romance, do you think it'll hurt One Piece live action in the long run through TV medium? That is actually a great question. I would not be surprised if... So, for example, they played up Usopp and Kaya more this season, right? I would not be surprised if they played up Vivi Koza more next season, you know? What else do we have there? I don't think we have anything we can work with in Drum Kingdom. Because there's something interesting. I don't know if you guys know about this, but it's something I learned a while back, which is just that in general in Hollywood, they have a 4 quadrants mentality. All right, 4 quadrants mentality is very simple. There's 4 quadrants of demographics. Shows almost ideally every large budget movie and most large budget shows should hit the 4 quadrants, right? 4 quadrants are old people, young people, men and women, okay? You should be able to make shows that are in some way appealing to all 4 of those groups. You should make movies that are in some way appealing to all 4 of those groups. Those are the bigger budget things that get greenlit. So, call it sexist if you want, but it is largely believed, but you can see articles and stuff about this, but like, it is often believed in Hollywood that if you're having some sort of like high action type story or something like that, movie, TV show, etc., that an important way to bring more women into being interested in whatever storyline is presenting is including a romance, whether a romance fits or not. So, that's just the Hollywood mentality, right? I'm sure you can think of a lot of blockbuster movies where a romance was probably completely unnecessary, but was written in anyway just because, or at least like a strong hint or strong underlying idea of romance was, like potential for romance was written in, just because that's Hollywood's mentality that you can't, like, if it's a blockbuster or anything, you need to include that stuff because that's what's going to draw more women in to be interested if they wouldn't be otherwise interested in the action fantasy aspects of it. Again, I'm not writing the rules here. That's the 4 quadrants theory, basically. Like, it's a big ass theory. It's the 4 quadrants like business model, I think, that most Hollywood studios work with. So I would not be surprised if the Usopp Kai stuff was played up further, specifically with that sort of thing in mind. Like, by episode 3 and 4, we should have some nice romance written in. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. That being said, again, I would not be surprised if we get to Alabasta and that'll be a thing. Oda has already made it clear that there should be no romance between the crew, so they can't break that rule, so that's good to know too. English 1D1, thanks for the 5. Morge, what was your favorite change overall, and why was it the addition of Bogard speaking lines? That is one of my least favorite. We're going to throw that in right now. Bogard speaking lines. Let's make this smaller. Bogard getting a role. I'll make it black. Bogard getting a role, a bigger role. Why? Because fuck Parvision. That's why. You probably feel so validated seeing Bogard get focus. Let me throw in this. I was bringing this up earlier, and then I started making the chart. This was the thing I was going to talk about. All right. First change that I wanted to throw on the board that I thought was good, and it might have set up well for the Zoro Mihawk situation, with a lot of people thinking initially that, holy shit, they might have just killed Zoro, right? If I've seen non-One Piece fans reacting to those scenes, and a lot of them seem to be under the impression initially like, oh my god, he might have actually died. I think a lot of that might be due to killing Mary. Why'd I do that in caps? Killing Mary. I think killing Mary helps. I think Mary is a perfect character to kill, because I think Mary is one of the first. If I'm thinking back in the manga, right? I think what's the One Piece classic? One Piece classic is basically bad guy just like does something really brutal, something really brutally violent to some like innocent character or whatever. An innocent character turns out to be perfectly fine later on, right? Like, think Pagaya, stuff like that, right? Think Pagaya, think fucking Tama. It doesn't matter, right? At the end of the day, the violence in One Piece, it's rampant violence that villains enact in One Piece. It's usually just for show, basically, right? Unfortunate reality of the series, but it is what it is. If I go back through One Piece, I think the first instance of there being a villain that's committing some sort of a violent act against a random side character / civilian / townsperson, I think, unless I'm mistaken, I think it was Kuro seemingly killing Mary, right? And it makes sense. This is your secret plan, right? That you've been working on forever. The plan only fucking makes sense if you kill Mary. There can be no survivors for this plan to work, for you to fool the entire village. In fact, Luffy defeating Kuro almost had no relevance to Kuro's plan failing, because it would have failed the moment Mary crawled out the door and went and told the villagers, which he very well could have, right? So killing Mary it's fundamentally important to the story. It should have happened in the first place in Syrup Village, right? I'm trying to think, was there anything like that in Orangetown? No, I don't think the mayor was ever seemingly fatally injured. I don't think in Shellstown anything like that happened. So yeah, Mary is where it starts. This fucker Mary is where the One Piece pattern of fake deaths begins, right? There's no reason that Kuro shouldn't have killed Mary in Syrup Village. To be clear, it's not like even written like a fake death necessarily in the manga as far as I remember. But it's a moment where the villain enacts some violence that by all means he should have just gone for the kill. He should have just killed him, right? There's no reason not to have. But it just doesn't happen. So killing Mary is great because it sets the tone for what can happen in this live action. And it basically shows that, like, just because Oda is very attached to his side characters, kill minor / unimportant side characters, just because Oda is very attached to them does not mean that, like, keeping them alive is always the right choice when it could add further stakes to the story, right? Does killing Mary add major stakes to all of the Syrup Village arc? Actually, I would argue yes, because it shows it just. First of all, in most stories, you know that the heroes are going to win in the end, right? So when we talk about stakes and tension and all that, it's always referring to the illusion of stakes and tension. We, the reader, know that it's going to end with the heroes winning, right? But the illusion of stakes and tension is important. That illusion is broken anytime you have villains pretending to do evil things, and it turns out that they failed to do said evil things, failed to kill characters, right? So doing this is important because I wouldn't be surprised if part of the reason that subconsciously live-action viewers are more open to the idea that, oh my god, Mihawk might have just killed Zoro, is because they've already seen that death is a real thing in this story, right? In this show, characters can die, right? Again, that's not to say that it's some sort of logical thing like, oh, Mary died, therefore Zoro might have just died here. All of these things are subconscious that you as a viewer pick up on. You're picking up on the tone, you're picking up on the level of realism that's being written into the story as you're watching things. So whether you're consciously or subconsciously realizing it, killing Mary probably did a lot for just setting the tone for what, like real violence can happen in this story. So I think killing Mary is huge, very important. Yeah, Pell's got to die, for sure. Pell has to die. I'm actually curious. Do you guys like that they killed Mary? Was killing Mary good or bad? Here's the thing. I'll say this before I start the poll. In the anime and manga, I like Mary. Mary's a good dude. All right? It's a little weird that this random old-ass side character is the namesake of the Straw Hats' beloved ship that they sail for 400 chapters on. It's a little weird because it's just like Mary doesn't belong. He's just a random dude, right? He's nowhere near important enough that the whole adventure of the Straw Hats is essentially built off of his namesake, He's just some random dude, right? Like, even if it was named after Kaya or something like that, it would feel like it makes a little bit more sense. But instead, it's just like the Going Merry. They're having this funeral. The ship literally comes to life. The Merry means so much to them. It's like Merry was just this, the most minor of minor random ass side characters. But I like Merry in the manga. Here's the thing. I'm okay with Merry in the manga not having died. Perfectly fine with that because I like the dude, right? In the live action, he barely got anything, right? Very, very limited screen time, very limited dialogue. So killing him off, I felt nothing, right? I was like, you can kill that guy off. He's not the Merry that I know. Uh, it's just not that I disliked him, but it's just, it's not Mary. Oh, wait, am I not screen sharing right now? That's hilarious. Why didn't you guys say something? You guys gotta say something. But I appreciated BrownieBot for saying something. Alito5, thanks for the 5. Can't believe live action went from 10 to 8 episodes because Morge kept getting past security to streak on set. I guess all the ruined footage adds up. Yeah, it's a shame because they initially had Don Krieg attacking Baratier and everything like that, but I put a stop to that. I'm also gonna say cutting Don Krieg. I liked cutting Don Krieg plus cutting Don Krieg plus Mihawk's introduction. However, I agree with what a lot of people said, which was Sanji needed more. Sanji could have used more of an arc in Baratier to shift to deciding to follow his dreams. I don't think Don Krieg was necessary for that. For this version of Sanji, I don't think Don Krieg was necessary. Although I do think that, the power of seeing Sanji refuse to fight back against Krieg's crew and taking off those hits from Pearl for the sake of the debt that he has towards Zeph, it is significantly more powerful than anything that we had. Didn't have to be Don Krieg, but could have been similarly powerful to the manga, right? Even something as simple as some people pointed out of him observing the Zoro and Mihawk fight and seeing that level of ambition and drive towards one's dream, because that is something that was significant for Sanji to watch in the manga as well. So I agree that that's a problem. But I think cutting Don Krieg in general and Mihawk's introduction was better. I still think that you need to replace that with something else for Sanji. It's better for the overall flow of the story, setting the tone, getting the majority of the characters, Luffy, Zoro, Nami, etc., into a very heavy place. Just cutting the Don Krieg victory from the manga is all very, very good for that. But Sanji, at the end of the day, gets the short end of the stick out of that change. Basically, I think for the greater good, cutting Don Krieg makes the entire narrative of East Blue flow better. I think it makes the transition from Straw Hats feeling happy to feeling a sense of despair, etc., to feeling a sense of resolve to get their shit together and go save Nami. I think that's all a lot better. I think it just does more dramatic work for the storyline overall and is very good for Luffy's character. But Luffy didn't need another victory there. Him losing instead to Arlong is significantly better in my opinion. But again, Sanji gets the short end of the stick, and it is technically his arc. So I view these two things as canceling out. Because you could have kept all this, cut Don Krieg, keep Baratier an arc of, midpoint, despair, sadness, etc., but give Sanji something else that could be a greater trigger or drive for him to end up chasing his dreams, right? Maybe involve him in the current conflict the Strats are going through more. I don't know. Eric says, I'm surprised Usopp didn't start crying harder when he looked up and saw Kobe was the Marine that's supposed to help. I would have. In theory, but the thing is that, don't know if you guys can hear that, but upstairs people doing some stuff. In theory, I could see that, but at the end of the day, it's a stranger, right? Kobe's just some stranger. And I think that the Marines are not necessarily proven to be the nicest, most upstanding guys in the story, right? And at the end of the day, it's kind of just okay, the police showed up, but I don't think we're all always happy to see the police show up. They're not necessarily the answer to all of our troubles. And I think, that's even validated by the fact that, one, if it was any other Marine, let's say it's fucking Helmet Poe instead of Kobe, they would have not believed Usopp, right? And two, even Kobe, like, Usopp was right not to be jumping for joy because Kobe didn't fucking solve his problems. In fact, Kobe didn't do shit. Like, I really liked the moment that Kobe showed up at the end of episode 3 because it was the first time in all 3 episodes that I was personally happy to see Kobe. Right? I was personally happy to see Kobe. I was like, finally, this dude, you know, he's not just being around for nothing. He's going to contribute to the story. He's going to get some important moment. And, like, him just being this this Boy Scout annoying ass character, it's going to pay off in some way. It fucking didn't, because he just shows up to Kuro's door. Kuro says, hey, whatever Usopp's telling you, it's not true. Case closed. And Kobe's like, oh, well I guess I better leave then. I guess I better leave. I did my due diligence as a police officer. I asked the guy, are you doing anything bad? And he said no. So I did my due diligence as a police officer. There's nothing more to be done here, right? So I think Usopp was very justified in not exactly fully believing that the Marines were going to save him in that moment, you know. Mechlord, thanks for the 2. First comment, Mr. Morgeman. No, it's not. You've commented plenty of times before. Animal harm is not funny. What did I say? What did I say? Animal harm? Is Mary an animal? Mary's not an animal. He's not a mink. Brandon King, thanks for the 2. Con, Luffy's backstory being split in pieces. Ooh, that's a good question. Steph, message retracted. Don't know what that person was saying. Yeah, the backstory is being split into pieces. Let me think about that. Oh, by the way, fun stuff. My dad and my sister actually watched the One Piece live action. They watched it without me knowing. My dad, actually, after last Monday's stream, a little bit later, he was texting like, oh, we're 5.5 episodes in. I was like, what the fuck? They didn't tell me. Because I specifically told my family, like, wait for me to watch, think about it, vet it, and then let you guys know if it's okay to watch. They apparently completely ignored that. And by the end of the week, my dad had finished all 8 episodes. So I've got a lot of interesting stuff to mention from that, because it's kind of opened my eyes to a few things. John678, thanks for the 10. Tuned into Randy's stream yesterday. Oh yeah, shouts to Randy. You guys can go check out the collab we did yesterday. And you casually dropped you've been working on and off on the WannaVid. Yeah, I have. Now that I know you're half-assing this shit, you better come through with the analysis. Wait, what? It is on and off. It's just not, mostly not on. But it is off right now. But it will be back on at some point soon. It's on and off. That's what the phrase on and off means. But I will come through with the analysis. Don't worry. That is the next big project in the works. It just is what it is. Brandon King, thanks for the 2. Con, Luffy's backstory being split in pieces. Okay, so I think Luffy's backstory being split into pieces. I'm just going to talk about everyone's backstory being split into pieces. Everyone's backstory was split into pieces. I think that is necessary for the live action. I think it's necessary for the live action. Because it's TV. And as far as I can recall, for TV shows that I have watched, right, like that feature backstories, it is very rare that you cut to, unless it's something like wildly, okay, how do I say this? If it's something that is purely character focused, right? Like if we cut to some backstory of like Shanks and Mihawk fighting or something, then yeah, of course you can just throw like a 15-minute cutaway in a TV show for that. Viewers would eat that up. But when it's something purely character focused and a little slow building, right? Like most of the Stride backstories are, especially the East Blue ones, right? Like, I think that for TV, you do need to split that shit up, because especially when it comes to like episode 1, because if you're a viewer, I mean, you have no context, right? You in TV generally, right? Generally, they're going to take a backstory and piece it up and split it between more interesting moments that are happening in the current storyline. That's just the way that they're going to do it, because I suppose attention span is the answer, but that's just the reality of it. I guess attention span is the answer. And I think especially with episode 1, it was good to split the Luffy backstory up and not just have it dominate a chunk of episode 1, because it's like you want to give the viewer, you want to really, really, really like be giving the viewer like a bunch of different reasons to keep watching minute to minute. Like each minute you need to give them a reason to keep watching the next minute, right? So if you have Luffy's backstory and it's like just all playing out extended, then you're seeing this kid, he's stabbing himself, which by the way was done in a very amateurish manner. And then this bar scene which doesn't lead to anything. It's just a lot of you have no reason to care about Shanks or anything just yet. I can understand. By the way, one of the reasons I'm also bringing that up is that my dad mentioned he didn't like any of the backstories. My dad liked One Piece live action quite a bit overall, but he mentioned he didn't like the backstories. He also said he doesn't like backstories in general. So that's something to note. But I think that that's not uncommon. Backstories, I think backstories are a common staple in One Piece. And I think more common in Japanese media. Obviously, Western media uses backstories plenty, right? But it's almost always pieced up more. I think it's much rarer in Western media that I've seen. Like, it still happens, but it's much rarer in Western media and TV shows that you just have full chunks of time devoted to backstory rather than piecing it up. So I think that I'm not going to say, I think that the backstories are much better in the manga, except for Zoro versus Kuina. Okay, let me rephrase this. I think Zoro versus Kuina better in the live action. I'm going to say that. Zoro versus Kuina better in the live action. I'm not even going to put it in pro because it's not that much of a big deal. Zoro versus Kuina better in the live action just because it's pretty much straight up bad in the manga, right? She died from some stairs, right? Like this character that we knew for like 3 pages. Oh no, really sad. Zoro versus Kuina, I liked what they did, and they're juxtaposing it with Zoro crawling out of the well. I think that that's really good. It makes it much more interesting and engaging than in the. I'll throw it in. Zoro, Kuina, backstory plus well. I think that's a pro. I would agree though that I think Sanji's backstory was solid, and I think every other backstory was weaker. And I think Usopp's backstory, they just straight up, it was just weird. He was like talking to his mom, and then she just like having the mom die mid-conversation just felt so weirdly amateurishly done. I'll say Usopp backstory. Like, Usopp's backstory is not that important in the manga itself either, but it's a nice, sad little send-off of getting a little glimpse of Usopp. But in the live action, they tried to play it up more, almost like, yeah, this is like a full-ass scene that we're getting of Usopp's mom dying, and I'm like, this is a really dumb scene. Sanji, I'll say Usopp and Nami's backstory are worse. But not much worse. I don't know if Nami's backstory is a con. I'll say Nami's backstory is slightly worse. It's a bit worse. It's just worse. But I don't think it was bad. I don't know if I'm going to put it in. What did you guys think? How did you guys feel about it? PNS is Morge. Do you like Twin Peaks? Oh wait, no. Let's scroll down a little bit. Scroll up a little bit. Let me catch the others. Steph says no Gaimon in live action is an L. I'm not gonna put that in the cons because I understand why they didn't do it, but it's not a pro either. I would have liked Gaimon, but obviously he's not gonna make it. Mechlor, thanks for 2. First comment. That's not true. You missed my $5. The $2 is after. Oh wait, what? Okay, let's take a look. Sorry, Mechlor. In the meantime, I'm gonna answer the Twin Peaks question. I haven't watched the new Twin Peaks, Pina, but I watched, I think, most of season 1 of the original Twin Peaks, and then I stopped watching when I somehow got spoiled on who killed her. Do you guys mind if I spoil you guys? It really upset me. It made me not want to watch it anymore. I was really fucking digging Twin Peaks. The original Twin Peaks when I was watching it, and it was freshman year of college. I still remember. I was really, really liking it. I was like, this is my new favorite show. And then I think maybe I was on some forum or Reddit or something like that, and I just found out who did it. and I was just like, this, fuck this, and I like dropped the show, and I was like, if I don't watch it for long enough, I'll probably forget who it was, but I haven't forgotten. To this day, I haven't forgotten. Man, so no, I haven't picked up the new Twin Peaks either. I know Twin Peaks isn't really about the mystery; it's more so that's the mystery is just the thing that it's the thread that kind of keeps things rolling, but really it's sinking into the town and all of the bizarre events and bizarre characters and strange sequences. But just I need that little carrot on the stick, you know. I need the carrot on the stick of the mystery. Otherwise, it's just not the same. The JM Lou 11, thanks for the 2. Ben Beckman's actor looked more suited to be Rue. Okay, here's the thing. I think that this might be controversial, but I'm just going to say it. I think that Lucky Rue is who they're kind of setting up to be the vice captain of Shanks' ship just based on screen time. And I think that that might just be... I'm not going to say it. I won't spoil it for you guys. I think it might be a race thing. I'll just say it straight up because, you know, it's just... I don't think it's a big deal at the end of the day. Like, neither Lucky Rue or Ben Beckman are significant characters in One Piece at this point in the story, right? We look forward to Ben Beckman, but I wouldn't say he's like a significant character yet. So, you know, if they want to play up, you know, Lucky Rue being the vice captain of Shanks, that's totally fine. And like, you know, it might be a small diversity thing or something like that, which, you know, take it or leave it. But yeah, they're like, we cast Lucky Rue as a minority. We're just gonna play him up as the guy a bit more. I don't know. I think that's a possibility. Don't know if that's controversial to say, but you know, I think that's reality. I think we all know those are conversations that happen in Netflix and things like that. So it's just my thought. Okay, Mechlor, thanks for the 5. Hi, Morge Man. First comment. No, it's not. A crocodile almost ate my dog the other day. That's what I had to go back and look at? All right. Glad I caught that. Oh, I missed another one. I'm sorry, from Rei Uchiha. Do you think Kaoru will be cut? Kuro will be cut? Kaoru? Karu! You're talking about the... Rei Uchiha, you spelled it Kouru. How's that Karu? That's not even... That's the worst spelling of Karu I've ever seen. But luckily I figured out what you're talking about. I think... Shit. What do you guys think? Is Karu gonna be cut? Let's see. Paracella says Morge can call out the race stuff too because he is a race. I'm race too, so it's okay for me to point that out. I'm not gonna lie. Being a minority makes it much more okay for you to talk about that stuff. I feel like if I was white, I just wouldn't even bring it up. But that's just my personal observation. I was like, yeah, to me, if I'm a blind viewer, I know nothing about about One Piece, I would be watching this. I'd be like, okay, Shanks is the captain. Okay, Lucky Roo is obviously the most significant character on this ship. He's the most significant of Shanks' pirates. Now, I'm a One Piece fan, so I know that it's not supposed to be Lucky Roo, it's supposed to be Ben Beckman. I'm like, why would they play up Lucky Roo instead of Ben Beckman? I'm like, maybe it's a minor cast. I don't know. Maybe it's a minor thing. I think that's the thing. That's just it. You know, that's it. Is Karu cut? I don't know. Let's see. I feel like all their budget's gonna go to Chopper. There's no way they do Chopper and Karu. How do you get Chopper and Karu? What if Karu is just a guy in a duck suit? What if Karu could just be basically... They could just do this for Karu. Right? Just a little bit smaller, and I think it works. Oh, man. Yeah, I think they could do this for Karu. Yeah, so I think Karu would work. You just gotta do this. It's actually proven, right? This is actually a wildly successful character. So there's no if they can do Big Bird, there's no reason they can't do Karu. I don't even know. I guess I'll do it just in case. I'll do the poll, but I think we've all realized, is Karu making it to the live action? I like that little I like the little thing that Buggy did in his introduction where he was like, Where's the dancing lion? I thought it was a funny little reference for anybody that's a One Piece fan. At the same time, part of me died a little bit because I realized that because he's saying that, we're probably not going to get fucking Richie the lion. But, you know. Yes, no. Let's see. Bingledupe, thanks for the 5. While that is definitely possible, I think Rue just popped off on the page way more than Beckman did back then, as is even in the manga. I kind of disagree. I mean, to begin with, it was clear that he got more lines and more focus in the, like, screen time wise and John Ross, I see you. I'll catch the super chats in a second. In the live action, right? So that's a conscious choice. I almost don't remember Ben Beckman saying anything. But okay, let's take a look here. Let's put that to the test. So if I'm looking at chapter 1, we're comparing Ben Beckman and Lucky Roo. Here he's just with the other characters and stuff. I think it's Beckman who gets the first real sort of highlight scene amongst all of Shanks' crewmates, right? He's the first person to kind of stand out as a cut above the rest in a sense because, you know, Shanks' crew, they're all just these random jolly guys. Beckman's kind of the voice of wisdom that's coming in, that's basically breaking down the truth about being a pirate. He's actually the one that, like, in the live action, Shanks basically explains, like, it's too dangerous, etc. Here, that's actually Beckman's lines, right? Beckman is that voice of knowledge, voice of reason. This stuff, we all know what happens. Yada, yada, yada. Lucky Roo gets this scene. He's definitely going to be... He definitely pops out for being the guy that does this. That explains the Gomu Gomu no Mi. Then Lucky Roo shoots the guy, which is a big deal for sure. But Beckman also gets a highlight here as well. So Lucky Roo shoots him. And then after that, Beckman basically, as far as I know, Beckman pretty much solos the rest of the Higuma bandits, as far as we could tell. So this is mostly the Ben Beckman show. And then after that, we have the iconic little panel, right? Who can forget this? Because we've seen this memed, so not memed, but we've seen this little panel redone so many times in the context of other. If you're on the internet, you've seen this panel used a lot, right? That kid's gonna be big, I know, because it reminds me of my early years. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but this image gets used quite a bit online for in other contexts, if that makes sense. I don't need to get into it, but ultimately, I think it's really hard to. I think no matter how you spin it, Ben Beckman clearly is the most significant of Shanks' crew throughout this chapter. Lucky Roo is second out of Shanks' crew in terms of highlight moments this chapter, but I think no matter, like, if you read it, it's clearly Ben Beckman focused more than Lucky Roo focused. So it is a conscious decision, no matter. It is a conscious decision, I would say, by the live action that, like, we want to highlight Roo and not Beckman, right? Now, maybe the reasons I'm assuming for that are inaccurate. That's entirely possible. Most people seem to think that Karoo's not making it to the live action. It's pretty close 50-50, but I also know that a lot of people voting yes are doing it as a joke. So I think more people are probably, like, we're probably not getting Karoo, right? Because just the budget for Chopper is already high. So John Ross says, thanks for the 5. Pell dying adds necessary weight to Luffy telling Vivi people die in war. They really should go for it. Pell needs to fucking die. Pell really... I think it should be not a question. It will just be so difficult to take things seriously if you're a non-One Piece fan, right? If you're... You know... It's just so hard. It's really hard. If you're a non-One Piece fan to take something like Pell not dying, I think, and then keep taking the show seriously. The thing with Pell dying is that, I don't know about you guys, but I was very young when I was in middle school when I'm going through the Water 7 Enies Lobby, or not Water 7. Yeah, no, all of it. Like, I'm binging all of One Piece pretty much. My One Piece story basically was like, I used to catch it when I was a kid in like elementary school when it would come on TV. Then eventually it stopped coming on TV, I guess because season or something. I don't know. Or I wasn't able to watch it anymore. And then I caught up again in middle school, right? So I got to experience the Alabasta arc in middle school. So at that time, you're a kid. You're like, yeah, Pell survived. That's fine. You know, I mean, I'm used to cartoons where nobody fucking dies. So it's not a big deal then. But, you know, now I'm like, sometimes I wonder if I were to read One Piece blind right now, I think I would still think it's like really, really, really great. You know, I would probably appreciate One Piece more if I read it blind right now. Because as a kid, when you're reading it the first time, you're not appreciating everything, right? But if I was reading it right now, I would appreciate even more like what a crazy, epic, grand, structured story he's creating. At the same time, I would be more nitpicky and critical of certain things like Pell not dying or like certain death fake outs and stuff like that, you know. So it would go both ways, I think. Kino the Far, thanks for the 5. Who would you want to play in One Piece live action? I think you could do a good job as Mr. One or a young Monkey D. Dragon or Chopper. Or Chopper. Also, is Randy Troy hiring? I don't think Randy Troy is hiring anything. But if I could play anybody, then within reason, right? I'm not going to be like, oh, I could play Big Mom or something like that, right? If I could play anybody, I would probably want to play either... I would want to play Wiper. Like, it would have to be somebody young, right? I can't be like some 40-year-old character, right? I think Wiper would be a lot of fun. I would love to play Wiper. Ace would be awesome too, because it's Ace. Plus, with the way I'm growing my hair out long, I think I'd eventually, by the time we're casting for that season 2, I'd have the I'd have the hair down for Ace, I promise. Wiper Ace would be fun. Mr. One, you'd have to go bald. Don't want to do that. Not a fan of that. SMX Wing, thanks for the 10. Government can't be the final boss. Blackbeard built up since Drum. Blackbeard has more impact on meta story events with Ace/with Whitebeard. Blackbeard power built uniquely in the story. Government goes down. Luffy versus Blackbeard for fate/direction of the world. So, I mean, that's something, everything you just said, if you go back and watch my Blackbeard analysis that I first put out, right? I put this out a while back. It's Morge Blackbeard. It's why Blackbeard is a necessary evil. Came out 3 years ago. If you go watch the last section of that, like the last few minutes, I talk about that at length, and I really, really go deep into, in my opinion, into why exactly I believe what you just said. That the world government will go down, and then it's a battle between Luffy and Blackbeard as for who decides what the dawn of the world will look like, what the new era will look like, right? I no longer believe that just because you're right that Blackbeard has been built up since Drum Kingdom, but the world government being evil has been built. It depends how you view it. Emu as a character, yes, has been around for a very short period of time, right? But it's more so what the world government essentially has arguably been established as kind of or been built up as the end-all be-all villain since the very beginning of the story, right? It just takes a while for us to understand, because first we're looking at the Marines, we're like, they're corrupt. Then slowly we're understanding that Marines are corrupt because it's a funnel, right? As we're slowly learning more about the world, like first we're seeing problems with the Marines, and we don't really like what the Marines stand for after a little bit. Then we're realizing that the Marines are like this because the world government that backs them, that they're the arm of, the world government itself is very, very flawed. And we realize that in Ohara, that the world government is basically pure evil and does so much under the name of justice to maintain this authoritarian power. And that's when we realize like the world government feels like the true villain, the true big bad of the world. And then a little bit later we understand that the world government, even that at its core, what is it? It is this entity that at its core is composed of the celestial dragons, who are basically the greedy, selfish aristocracy nobles of the world. And, you know, their mentality, their rule is ultimately what makes the world government the evil that it is. So it's like you're going up the layers as you slowly peel back the truths of the world and what makes the world this dystopia, right? First you're like, it's the Marines. Then you're like, the Marines are like this because the world government is like this. Then you're like, the world government is not a bad concept. If the problem is that it's got these celestial dragons at the center. They're the true, deep rooted evil in the world that just lays its oppression across the entire planet, right? And then finally we're finding out that like the celestial dragons, they all go back to this one individual that is like the celestial dragon that is basically representative of everything, right? And that is Imu. And that is the true singular truth at the heart of the One Piece world. So you're right that Blackbeard was built up longer, but it's because the nature of what Oda's trying to do with Imu necessitates that he can't be revealed right away. Because the idea is that the whole world is under this dystopic dictatorial rule, but nobody realizes it. And that's what makes it such a fascinating unveiling of like the reader's notion of what the truth is slowly being twisted and turned and like having your eyes open bit by bit. So you can't have Imu like that. Instead, what Oda did is basically build up the concept that the ruling power of the world, there's something fundamentally wrong with everything, and we have to keep peeling back layer after layer to get to that core at the center of it all, which is this one individual, right? So it's not the same as just saying like one character's been around longer than the other, because conceptually what Imu represents, the true root of all evil, it's something that has been building towards for even longer than Blackbeard, right? We're getting to the truth of the world government, the truth of the nature of the world, right? So just by building up the concept that the Marines are evil because the world government is evil, because the celestial dragons are evil, because Imu is evil, right? Just building up the general concept of this overarching sense of authority, oppression, etc., and what does it all go back to? I could argue that Imu has been built up more than any other character since day one. We just didn't have a face to what we were trying to fight this entire time. Imu is just finally putting a face to this like, what if in Enies Lobby in chapter 398, the Strahds declare war on the world, right? There's no face to it at that point in time. We're just understanding that they're going to war with this general entity that represents authoritarianism, oppression, injustice, etc., right? But it's too soon for us to have a face to what they're actually fighting against. Imu is just finally putting a face to that. So you could argue that like if the fundamental conflict of One Piece is finally about, freedom versus that authoritarianism, it is ultimately going to be about Luffy versus God, right? That being said, I would not be upset if it's Luffy versus Blackbeard as the end. I'm just saying that if you're saying that Imu hasn't been built up long enough, I think you're looking at it the wrong way. And at the end of the day, Blackbeard and the way he is, it also seems to be a consequence of, like, the world government and particularly the Celestial Dragons seem to be being set up to be the root of all evil, right? Because you can see all the other villains that we're getting, Doflamingo, Kaido, all of these characters, right? Their motivations seem to stem back to being wronged in some way by the world government, right? Doflamingo, we see that. Kaido growing up in a certain world and that sort of shaping, like, a world that was caused by the class system of the world government and the inequalities of the world government, etc., and that shaping his motivations. Blackbeard we meet as, like, an orphan child on an island that was left to die by pirates because the world government didn't protect it, etc., because the world government is evil, right? Like, everybody is all, like, everybody, like, even fucking Crocodile, right? We find out that his true beef is with the world government. So everybody that we're meeting, I think, along the way, they're a victim of the world government, as we're slowly learning. Like, no matter how evil the character is, in some sense, they are a product of this one big evil that is creating a world that spawns other sources of evil in response to it, right? So I still feel like we fight these guys, then these guys, then these guys, then these guys, then these guys. Everything is heading towards one final, like, I've said the phrase root of all evil quite a bit, but that is really what I feel like everything is leading towards, right? All of these other characters that we're seeing, Doflamingo, Kaido, Crocodile, Blackbeard, their agendas and their evils, etc., they're all symptoms of the greater problem. I feel like that's how it's being presented, which is why I feel like it makes more sense that Imu is the final villain. But again, I'm not married to that idea. Just I would be perfectly happy with Blackbeard being the final villain because I like him more. I think he's gonna ultimately go down as the most iconic villain in One Piece, the most memorable and interesting villain in One Piece, and we do have a more personal, long-term connection and dynamic with that character. So, I'm just calling it like I see it, which is everything seems to be shaping towards that final villain being Imu. I don't know. But that's a good question. All right. Let's move it along. What else did I miss? Let me see. Ray Chia, thanks for the 5. The pacing in this week's One Piece episode was so bad. I felt like I could have read 30 chapters. I mean, that's because the pacing in the manga itself was terrible for this section, right? It was Luffy versus Kaido, but Oda realizing that he needed to like force in some backstories and emotion because it wasn't effectively established prior to this. So then he gives us a chapter-long backstory of Wano, which is just so weird and arbitrary, like so forced in. I don't know why that was. I mean, I know why that was included there, but it's purely because like all the emotion was, you know, when you're seeing Luffy fight fucking Lucci, right? You don't need to have like you get the flashbacks of the stuff that's fucking relevant to the character's journey and stuff like that, right? Like Luffy, Robin, all of that stuff. That's what makes that flashback sequence so powerful, and it's compact and it falls into the flow of Jet Gatling, and it carries you through the emotional journey the characters have been on this entire arc. Luffy's had no emotional journey in Wano. None of the Straw Hats have. They were tourists just chilling for most of Wano, right? So instead, Oda's got to shoehorn in some weird-ass backstory again for the general populace of Wano, just to remind the reader that, hey, bad stuff happened. You should really care right now that Luffy's defeating Kaido, even if the characters never really acted like that invested emotionally in the storyline, right? So that's why that backstory happens in the manga. And the anime is the anime. I'm trying to speak less poorly about the anime in general, even though it's nearly impossible not to. But, yeah, the anime is going to take any moment that's poorly paced in the manga and just make it basically unwatchable in the actual show. And that's just the way it's going to be. SMX Wing, thanks for the 5. Luffy vs. Hannibal is a microcosm of the endgame. Luffy vs. Hanya, the state, ends when Blackbeard comes in and destroys Hanya during his epic speech. Blackbeard didn't give a fuck. Yeah, maybe. I think that could be just saying that like this is foreshadowing for something when we really don't know if it's foreshadowing for something, but yeah, that could be cool. Lynn, thanks for the 5. How do you think they'd pull off Skypiea? What change do you think they'd make to make it work in live action? I think they're gonna have to devote like. Here's the good thing about Skypiea, and one of the things I actually didn't like about it in the manga. The good thing about Skypiea is that, like, in terms of adaptation possibilities, is that we really don't spend that much time in the clouds. This is what I didn't like in the manga, which is that we got to go to this, by far the most fantastical location in One Piece to date, right? Literally the sky, a sea of clouds. We got to go there, and then 95% of the arc takes place in the fucking forest, in the woods. It's like the most generic ass location possible. It works obviously in the context of the story, because the context of the story is that this is Verth, it's very sacred here, the island of Jaya was launched up here, etc. But I'm saying just in terms of actually using the beauty and the fantasy and the wonder of the environment that you've put us in, right? The sky. Why the fuck is why are we just wandering around a fucking forest like it's some random ass East Blue Island for the entire arc? So that's disappointing. You know what's funny? I think the Naruto author said something like, Naruto Skypiea. I think the Naruto author, I might be wrong, but the Naruto author said something like that he wanted to do a storyline in the sky. Yeah, so this is something that Kishimoto wanted to do. Kishimoto wanted to do Kishimoto wanted to do something with clouds in the sky. Kishimoto was very jealous when Oda made the Skypiea saga because he wanted to be the first to do it, but was beaten to it. I do wonder if there's like, if Oda doing Skypiea almost makes other people feel like that's kind of sad to hear because it's just like, I feel like Oda had a great concept with the Skypiea arc, but almost wasted it with the storyline we got in that arc because the fucking storyline we got in that arc had nothing. It didn't take place in the fucking sky. It took place in a forest that happened to be in the sky, but for the most part, we couldn't fucking tell it was in the sky. It was just a forest, right? It was a forest with some random clouds and shit once in a while. So I'm almost like, fuck. I wonder what did other mangaka feel like they have to not write their sky storylines because Oda did Skypiea? In which case, I'm like, damn, that's a fucking shame because I would have loved to have seen like what a Naruto arc in the sky would have looked like. I would have loved to have seen like, I don't know, like a myriad of other anime manga. Like, fuck, I hope Oda wasn't just like him taking the Sky Island idea didn't cut off a lot of potentially more interesting sky storylines or like uses of the sky environment that we could have gotten from other storylines, from other series. I don't know. As for what change I think they'll do in the live action, I think they'll just make it 1 to 2 episodes. Because, again, like a lot of the story of Skypiea, it's not that important for the Straw Hats, right? So ultimately, if it's more so important for the lore and the context, you can establish that in a couple episodes. These episodes are really fucking long, right? Like 2 hours, it's a movie. It's a full fucking movie, right? 2 episodes of One Piece, it's a full feature-length film. So you could cover Skypiea by just cutting a tremendous amount of the characters and stuff. And just getting across the core concept, the lore, the key foreshadowing bits, etc., key messaging, establishing the sky exists, establishing the moon exists. You can get all that across in a couple episodes, I think. I think you really, really don't need the majority of the arc. SMX Wing, thanks for the 5. Another microcosm event I see. God Valley, Rocks versus Gold Roger, who defended the Celestial Dragons. Celestial Dragons will have their fate decided by Blackbeard too. Again, yeah, I see that as a maybe, but I also just feel like ultimately the final step, right? Like to me, it's almost like the fact that Roger got to defeat Blackbeard, right? Rocks, Blackbeard 1.0, or like the prototype version of Blackbeard. To me, I feel like that's a step in Luffy's journey. To me, Luffy's final step would be doing the one thing Roger never did, which was he never got the one thing he never got the time to do, which was take on the world government itself, right? I feel like Luffy at the point that he defeats Blackbeard, that will be kind of mirroring and checking off the one thing that was really Roger's first huge claim to fame, right? Which was defeating Rocks. That'll establish Luffy as the strongest pirate. But then after that, there's one thing that Roger never did, a much bigger final obstacle, which would be the world government itself. You get what I'm saying? Because Rox's own goal was the world government, right? Roger stopped him before he could get there. But ultimately, that to me, that kind of leaves it standing as like, Rox could never get to the world government. Roger didn't have time to go after the world government. The world government, to me, ultimately still stands as basically the end-all, be-all. It's that monolith that's just been around for 800 years, and these pirates keep coming and going, etc., but none of them are ever going to catch it. So I feel like Luffy, that being the final thing that he does, I feel like that seems a bit more powerful to me, especially just because it would mean that the story ends at Mary Geoise. I mean, Blackbeard could end the story at Mary Geoise as well, because he could make it there, so that's not necessarily the point. Umir Ula, thanks for 2. Is it Laugh Tale then Final War, or other way around? I mean, this is going back to the same questions that SMX Wing is bringing up to a degree. Although Blackbeard could be at Mary Geoise as well. I personally think it's Laugh Tale, then Final War. Need to double check if I missed any supers along the way. Then we can go back to doing these the pros and cons as the actual topic of the stream. I think I'm good. Got this. I think I'm caught up. If I'm not caught up, then somebody just shout out that I missed yours or something. All right, pros and cons. Okay, what did I really like? What changes did I really like? I really liked... It's tricky because there's things that I like that they changed, but I would not have wanted them to change it in that manner for the manga. Does that make sense? So I liked that we got a Luffy scene, then a Zoro scene, and then a Nami scene, and then we had all three of them meeting at Shellstown. I liked that for the live action. But the actual flow, that doesn't mean I would have liked that in the manga, if that makes sense. You know, it's not like I want the manga, I'm like, oh, the manga would have been better if we got Luffy, Zoro, and Nami all together right away. I think it's much stronger. I think East Blue in the manga is ultimately, and I mentioned this in my review, I think it's ultimately meant to be a very slow-paced, simplistic, lackadaisical storyline, right? I don't think it needs a sort of frenetic energy. I don't think it needs a tremendous amount of momentum. I think it should feel like a sort of wandering... I've often compared East Blue One Piece actually to a Euro comic. Like, it feels like an Asterix or a Tintin or something like that. I would say Asterix quite a bit. It just feels very... it's not as crazy high stakes or anything like that. It really is lighthearted adventure, encountering characters and funny little fantasy stuff along the way, or like, you know, just odd stuff along the way. And you know, Luffy meeting the characters one at a time, island by island. I really, really like that. But again, if I'm watching a live action TV show, I wouldn't fucking watch a show like that. You know? I mean, I think me at this age with my the amount of free time I have, I would probably just stop watching once I realized a couple episodes in that, like, it's just going to be this sort of slow, lazy, aimless pace, basically. So I'm not going to count that. I'm not going to say that that's... Like, I think Zoro's Kuina backstory and the well juxtaposition, I think that whole thing is just... I think it's just straight up better than it was in the manga. The Straw Hats introductions and everything like that, I'm not going to say it's better than it was in the manga. I just think it's better in the context of the medium of live action TV. But I still prefer the manga overall for that stuff. Ray Chia, thanks for the 5. Didn't White Bread say when the One Piece is found, that will trigger the final war? Yeah, I personally take that straight up as just Oda spelling out for the reader kind of what to expect in the story. But I've seen some people argue that, like, well, just because Whitebeard said that doesn't mean that that's going to be how it is. So, I don't know. What's Parvision is saying? Kind of hope they don't get to Marineford. Lol, I feel like the Gigantic War is so rough in live action. I don't know. No, but, like, I think whatever they do for Marineford is going to be heavily condensed. So it's not like every interaction you get in Marineford is going to be the same. But my simple take is they did... we've seen huge TV show battles at this point. We've seen what's that big Game of Thrones one where it's in like season 4. Game of Thrones season 4 wall battle. I think it's, to date, my favorite episode of Game of Thrones. The Watchers on the Wall. Yeah. Yeah, that was... I mean, they've done huge budget war episodes in these, you know, in shows at this point. And, you know, One Piece is... The budget, it's seeming like it's going to continually get. It's probably going to keep going up. There's been more advancements in CGI. I think it's doable. I think Marineford is doable as long as it's just a heavily... It's going to be insanely condensed is all I can think. Like, I think, you know, Marineford... I wouldn't be surprised if all of Marineford is essentially one episode. But we should be happy with that. Like, I think it'll be one episode of us getting to see lots of the top tiers throwing attacks at each other, etc., leading to a climax of Ace dying or something. And then everything after that. I don't think it can be all one episode literally, but I'm just saying, like, in terms of the majority of the action, I think we will get one really huge set piece heavy action episode, like a full hour long episode of that. right, where most of the action will happen. And I think dramatic stuff like Whitebeard and the ships rolling up can happen in the previous episode. Maybe the fallout after Ace's death, with the Blackbeard pirates, etc., arriving in the next episode. But I'm saying, like, I don't think we can expect a full several episode after episode of just a long ass war. I think it's going to be one big battle scene that they do that takes a full episode, and most of it will take place in that, in my opinion. Again, not like the whole of Marineford in one episode. I'm just saying a lot of the larger scale battle stuff that we see, I think, will take place. There'll be one significant episode devoted to that. Marineford as a movie. How often do these TV shows turn into good movies? I think almost never. Oh, Parvision, fun fact. I put Bogard getting a bigger role under Khans right away, specifically because somebody brought it up. And I was just like, man, Bogard getting a bigger role is just Parvision propaganda that has spread too far. So I put it under Khans right away. Marineford, like, can anybody tell me what's the point that... There's never been a point that I felt like a live-action TV show could do with a movie, and it's actually done well. Like, it's actually... I just feel like the format is too different. Right? Even at the height of Breaking Bad, I was never like, oh, Breaking Bad should conclude with a movie, because it's just... It's too different. The expectations for a movie are just drastically... There's just things that people take for granted as... that people accept in TV, that once it translates over to film format, you just... It feels wrong, or it feels off, or it feels amateurishly done, or, like, poorly... Movies are just a different ball game. Like, ball game. Movies are just a different ball game. Don't know why I'm... I feel like I'm stumbling over my words quite a bit today's stream. Don't know what's going on. But yeah, I think movies are just a different ballgame. I've never once felt like, yeah, if you took the TV show, threw it into film format, it would do well. I think that's a fantasy that most TV productions have, that, like, yeah, if we get successful enough, then we can have our big finale be a movie or something. It's like, no, I think you guys work best at just the pace and flow of a TV show is drastically different. Just the level of scrutiny of everything goes up once you're directing a movie, versus it just being a TV show. Because I think a lot of people don't understand, there's so many things that when you're watching it as a TV show, like, there's so many direction choices in, like, say, a Breaking Bad. When I'm watching it as a TV show, I'm like, oh my god, that's so smart and creative and everything like that, right? But that sort of thing is standard in film. It becomes standard in film. So a lot of what we think is really, really good in television, it just, once you put it under the scope of, okay, now it's got to succeed as a full 2-hour movie, and you've got to tell, like, a full, clean story. You don't get to draw this out over many episodes. You need to tell a full, clean story arc, full through line, etc. over the course of one. You get 2.5 hours, right? And it's got to hit all of these significant emotional beats over the course of it. It just becomes a much more constrictive and, like, scrutinized format where everything needs to be operating at a very, 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 like, very high level. And I just don't think any TV shows I've ever seen, I'm like, yeah, it would be better if this is a movie. Anime doesn't count. Anime does not count. Anime is different. Talking about live action. Scooby-Doo live action movie was good. You know what's fucking crazy? When I was a kid, I watched the two Scooby-Doo movies, right? The one where they went to that island where Scrappy-Doo was doing all that crazy shit. And then another one where they, like, all of their past enemies come to life and stuff. I watched those two movies. I fucking loved them when I was a kid. And then I become an adult, and I found out that everybody hated them, and everybody thought that they were terrible. I'm like, what the fuck? We don't like the Scooby-Doo movies now? Oh my god. Cosmos says, does Marvel count? Don't they do TV shows for the characters? No, that's the reverse. That's taking movies and then just being like, well, we can milk this for cash, so let's put out some shitty $30 an episode TV show, and then dumb people will eat it up. No offense if you like the Marvel TV shows. But Also, this might be really weird, but I found out later when I became an adult that people really didn't like Scrappy Doo. That he was apparently like the most hated Scooby Doo character. I liked I never liked him much. Like I wasn't like, oh boy, Scrappy Doo's in this episode or whatever. Like we're watching a Scrappy Doo TV spinoff. But, I liked Scrappy Doo. Thought he was solid. Um, and also, here's the thing. I really love the Scooby Doo movies that were just Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy doing stuff. Like there was a whole offshoot of just episodes of or movies of Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy doing stuff like the Goal School, the Boo Brothers, stuff like that. I thought was a lot of fun. I have to check my Twitter DMs because Parvision sent a funny One Piece live action vid. All right, let's see. Hope this doesn't derail everything. Is this pornography? Let's see. Okay, let's move this over here. This was sent to me by Parvision. It's a TikTok, so I don't think it's that funny, but okay, hold on. What? Am I stupid? What am I missing? Oh, he swinging at nothing? What? Okay. That's funny. I didn't see that. That's funny. It makes sense though. Oh, I wasn't sure if I'm adding Nami's backstory. I was like confused. I'm gonna add. I don't think Nami's backstory is a con. It's just not as good. Okay, other pros. No, thanks, Paravision. That was funny. Uh. What are pros? What are pros? Okay, I'm gonna put in cons. Usopp's character in general. Not the acting, the character. Right? So I think we can agree on that. What's a pro? What's a pro? What's a pro? What's a pro? What is a pro? What's a anyone want to mention some pros? Not that there aren't pros off the top of my head that I liked Syrup Village a lot in general though. I loved how they did Syrup Village. I fucking love slow ass claustrophobic murder mystery plots. You know? Like wait, I didn't get it? No, it's just the sword bent. And then he edited so the sword didn't bend. Um I think that we like obviously we know Kuro's the bad guy, but I still enjoy the just pretending that the whole scenario is like, this scary mansion that they're in. Um Creepy butler, which is classic. Yeah, just everyone in this like tight enclosed space. You have a dinner party scene and stuff like that that sets up a murder later in the night. I don't know. I loved Syrup Village quite a bit. Syrup Village I enjoyed. You know what? Syrup Village was better. I'm gonna say I like Syrup Village better here. I think the only things are just like, here's the problem. In the live action, it's hard to. I feel like so much comes through in the actual fights, right? Because in the manga, you have the story setting up everything, right, for the characters, right? And then the fights are where you have the characters basically actually fights are a more long drawn out thing which involves a lot more dialogue between the opponents, lots more internal monologues from the characters themselves, and it's just generally a big character growth moment for generally the main characters, right? like fights are always a really good opportunity for that. Not every fight needs to be that way, but it just is the way it is, right? Here, in a live action format, that's harder, right? So once you get a fight going, because we're not watching an animated thing, because we're not reading a manga, it feels less natural to have characters having long back and forth discussions or long internal monologues and things like that, and having just an extended amount of time devoted to them having some character growth, right? That's why Usopp versus Chu was the way that it was. That's why when I say Syrup Village is better, I think it's better across the board except for the fights, because the fights at the end of the day, it's just, Kuro and Luffy, they're swinging at each other for a little bit. 30 seconds, it's pretty much over. Maybe a minute or two or something. I thought Zoro versus Sham and Bucci was a phenomenally choreographed fight. But, in the anime, it's more of there's a story to it, right? Even if it's not something that has, like, growth for Zoro or anything like that, it does actually do quite a bit for bonding Zoro to Usopp and Zoro to Nami in particular. And on top of that, it's just, there's more of a story to it, right? Like, you have Zoro realizing he underestimated the two a little bit, then suddenly Zoro realizing he's lost both of his swords, so he's fighting with one sword. Then there's this dialogue about one sword versus three swords. You get to spend some time with him without it, right? There's just more talking back and forth, and then eventually he gets the swords back. He's got some badass lines about it. It's a lengthier exchange, which it's just anime manga stuff, right? It's stuff that it would feel probably too weird to do in live action. I don't know if that's just something we're all assuming is too weird to do in live action, but I feel like it's a fair assumption. But yeah, I think that I'm gonna say the fights. I'll just say nah, because the action was fucking good. The action was good. It's just you can't translate certain aspects of the long, lengthy dialogues and like slow-paced fights where everyone's giving pauses and time to talk to each other and time to explain their philosophies and beliefs, right? You kind of gotta keep it moving. You don't have time for a bunch of character growth and like internal monologues and like hearing their thoughts. I don't know. Someone just said Ben Beckman was too oh, this is terrible. Ben Beckman was too fat, says Steve Ramos. Come on, guys. Leave Ben Beckman alone. Leave Ben Beckman alone. BC117 says, Morge, I hated that Luffy said he could not beat Arlong. Here's an interesting point, right? That's something I want to talk about. At the end of the day, Luffy did beat Arlong. I thought pretty unequivocally he just overpowered and beat Arlong, right? I felt that even if Luffy said I can't beat you, but I can do all of this other stuff, to me it fucking looked like at the end Luffy was just beating him. So I don't give that line too much thought, but at the same time, I think that this is a very okay. Stepping back for a moment, right? And I might be reading too much into this, but this is a feeling that I got, right? The line of Luffy saying that I could beat I can't beat Arlong to him here versus I can beat you in the anime and in the manga, right? That was something that didn't even stand out to me as much when I first watched it, because I was kind of taking something for granted. What I was taking for granted was the manner in which they were having Luffy win fights throughout the season was in much more of an underdog fashion, where like Luffy couldn't beat Buggy. Like Luffy and Zoro beat Axe and Morgan together, right? In the manga, Luffy just beats him easily by himself. Could live action Luffy have beaten Axe and Morgan by himself? Yeah, probably. Then the next episode, but they still made it a team effort. Then the next episode against Buggy, it was a team effort, right? Knowing what we know by the end of the season, I bet Luffy should have been able to beat Buggy by himself just fine. But again, they just made it a team effort, right? And they made it more of a strategy thing of like, oh, I can knock away your pieces and lock them up in crates and stuff like that, right? And then finally with Arlong, it was like, I can't beat you head on, but I can do this, like I can start destroying the stuff you care about and distract you with that sort of, right? To me, this speaks to how a lot of Western characters are written in these TV shows and even movies and stuff like that, where it's like, they want, like, there's just this obsession, I suppose, with having the hero like not really Like just having the hero have to figure out some clever tactic or something like that to beat the villain, or like winning through teamwork or something like that. Like I feel like it's very very common. You know, I think it's much less common to just have heroes like anime heroes, or like you know, where the hero just straight up gets their power ups, or like they fight the bad guy 1v1 or whatever, and then they just like become stronger over and over till like, you know, whatever. Like, you know, I just think that the Western stuff shies away from that for some reason. Like, so much, like, I could think of a million fucking examples. Like, Thor fighting his sister or whatever, and like, you know, Thor's got his power ups and stuff, but by the end he's like, you know what? I can't beat you, but Surtur can or whatever, and then Surtur comes out and beats her, and it's like, yeah, that's cool, but wouldn't it have been cooler if like the power up that you worked and had this entire character arc for, you know, that's what let you beat her, beat her or whatever. I don't know. I think that that's just some weird Western writing tick. That's just more common. You know, like I like seeing Luffy beat Crocodile ultimately without help. I like seeing Luffy get his gears and ultimately just beat Lucci straight up. I like seeing Luffy beat Katakuri. Like, these things, to me, that matters for the character and the character's growth and his goals. I get that like having Luffy, having him team up with Zoro to beat Morgan, or like team up with Zoro and Nami to beat Buggy and use tactics rather than just brute strength. It's like cute writing, I suppose, I guess, but it's almost like there's a fear to just give in to the idea of what Luffy is, which is, as Luffy explains to Arlong, he's like, I'm the guy that basically, when everything comes down to it, I can beat up you. Like, I can beat up whoever the bad guy is that's threatening my crew, and that's my role. That's my thing. I don't know why they didn't feel like that's a good character trait for Luffy, because to me that's almost Luffy's most important character trait at the end of everything, which is that if people are threatening, like if there's a threat to his crew or the people that he cares about, like Luffy's just gonna be able to push to a level of strength that he'll be able to stop whatever entity is coming after the people that he cares about. I think that's very, very important to him and who he is. I really hope that this is not a continuing trend where it's like Luffy is just unable to do something or the other, but he finds some clever loophole or something like that to do it. At the end of the day, I didn't think it was a big deal because he did beat Arlong. At least in my eyes, he just straight up beat Arlong despite what he said. But it is a really strange departure from how Luffy is written and what he's meant to represent in the story itself, you know? Glumdrop says, see, I disagree. I love it when they fight as a team. We hardly get enough of that in the manga as is. I'm cool with them fighting as a team, just in contexts that I feel, um, you know, I didn't, like, I'm viewing it as a separate adaptation, so I don't mind. So I'm not, like, it seems like they're not positioning Luffy in that same light in this adaptation. So I'm okay with that, you know? I'm okay with that in this adaptation. I'm not going to put it down as a con or anything like that. But I feel like if we're looking at it compared to the manga, I really, really enjoy the fact that Oda positions Luffy as basically, I'm the strongest, and whoever I'm up against, I'm going to become as strong as I need to be to beat them, because that's just what my role is, right? I need to be able to protect my friends, etc., save whoever, blah, 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 right? The Western show so far does seem to be going with the route of, like, you know, Luffy's not quite as strong as, like, you know, we need some shortcuts or some teamwork or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, I'll say dialogue or like Luffy's dialogue in general, because it is very on the nose. I think Luffy's dialogue stands out the most out of most characters, just because he's the character that is used the most to communicate the themes, but it's done in a very upfront manner, I think. Let's see. Hold on. I think I missed a couple. Let's get some more pros in. People hated Fred from Scooby-Doo? I think all the Scooby-Doo characters are great. Lucky Man says, Morge, what do you think about the exclusion of Hachi? I think you know why? If I had to take a quick guess, I would assume it's because Hachi adds more nuance to how we view the Fishman, you know? Because Hachi's just a good guy, right? So Hachi's great when we get time for extended interactions between the crew and the Fishmen as we got over Arlong Park. Like Zoro gets to meet Hachi, we get scenes of characters talking to Hachi and stuff like that. He's just a good guy. Hachi is hard to dislike, whereas in the live action, we're only getting a couple episodes to introduce this Fishman plotline and resolve it, and they need to feel like really, really bad, nasty ass characters that have like just caused so much pain and suffering. Hachi neuters that a little bit. So if I'm guessing, one, they're like, we're only gonna get time for a fight for like either Karubi or Hachi, right? Like we're not gonna write Zoro versus Hachi plus Sanji versus Karubi plus Usopp versus Chu plus Luffy versus Arlong, right? So it's like we need to cut it out and we just give Arlong one right hand man. It's kind of like, let's just go with Karubi, because if you're writing in Hachi, then you're committing to a longer, more varied sort of storyline where you're also showing nicer interactions with the Fishmen, which kind of takes away from the idea that the Fishmen are, just again, over the course of a full manga story arc, you can show the Fishmen as being like really overall like really, really oppressive and having caused so much suffering, while still including one nice guy Hachi. But in a shorter amount of time, which is what the live action had to work with, there's no point to adding in like a good guy character into the bad guys when you're trying to establish just how mean and nasty the bad guys are overall. You could say that creates problems for down the line when we need to realize that the Fishmen, most of them for the most part, are good, etc. But I'm sure that they can deal with that when they come to it. And I'm sure there's other ways to do that without having that prior Hachi connection. Papa Dog Sucker, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 11 months. Morge, my girlfriend broke up with me. I'm sorry, man. Can you say... Can you say, come here, Papa Dog Sucker? I'm not saying the rest of this. But I'm sorry to hear that, man. Aslan, thanks for being... Or no. Thanks for the 5. Easily the worst change was Zero. I assume you mean Zoro. He lacked any of his humor or passion from the anime or manga. I'm a Zoro stan and I hated that man, not gonna lie. You know what's funny? My dad did not like Zoro. He was like, yeah, I don't like those like really skulky characters all the time. I'm like, man, but Zoro's not... Zoro in the manga is not like that. Here's the thing. I like Zoro a lot in the live action quite a bit. He would have probably been like, okay, if I didn't... He's pretty different from the manga Zoro. He keeps some clear core traits, and you can see the similarity and inspiration very clearly, right? But I still liked live action Zoro quite a bit. I don't know. I can get why a lot... Do people dislike him because they dislike that he lacks certain personality traits from manga Zoro? / anime Zoro? / anime Zoro? Or is it more so you just don't like that character type of just the silent, stoic figure? Because I can dislike those types of characters as well, but I feel like Zoro, like, he pulled it off well. I felt like there was quite a bit of humor underneath that. I think just because he wasn't very expressive didn't change the fact that he had quite a bit of humor, quite a bit of drive, determination, and like commitment, etc. to his own dreams. I don't know. And again, I thought he was funny. Thought he got a lot of good lines. It was just fun to watch on screen, in my opinion. Chinua Alabachi says Makini was the worst actor at the East Blue 5. I just disagree. I don't know, because I feel like he made that character type that could be... If people didn't have fun with that performance, then they didn't have fun with that performance, but I thought it was great. Like, I thought it was great for what it was. Like, I thought it could have just been a really dull, boring performance, but I found him to be, like, a character that was honestly, like, still, like, he had the funny side to him and like the quick, like a sort of quick wit side to him also, but then also very intense and then also very commanding in a certain way. So I feel like, I don't know, I don't think any of the East Blue 5 performances were bad, and I definitely don't think Makinyu's was the worst, in my opinion. I definitely agree that he's not the same as Manga Zoro, though. Definitely agree that not the same as Manga Zoro. Manga Zoro has a very different, fairly different personality. Ramen Stains, thanks for the 5. Hey, Mork, first message. Do you think Hachi will be replaced with Karubi if we get to Sabaody? No. I think that there was no groundwork done for Karubi to be that guy in Sabaody. If Hachi ever becomes a character again, I think that it'll be more, I don't know, maybe a fresh character to show a different side of Fishman's introduced at Sabaody. Basim El Madawi, thanks for the 5. Luffy isn't selfish enough. Instead of demanding people to give him what he wants, he asks. The ship, for example, Luffy would say, hey, give me a ship. Again, that's like, I agree. It's clearly not the same Luffy, but like, you know, what translate? I feel like certain aspects of Luffy's character, they might not translate in the most sympathetic light in a live action format. I think that they did, the concept of Luffy that they had for the live action, I think was perfect, in my opinion. It's just, except for the manner in which he communicates his his ideas and his beliefs, the dialogue was rough. And the prior mentioned thing of just the idea that he doesn't actually win fights or something like that, or he's not as capable of a fight. I feel like that stuff is important for him because that's everything. So not everything about the concept of Luffy, in my opinion, was perfect. That's the wrong part. But I think his core personality traits, let's say that. I think a lot of his core personality traits were they thought of a really good way to transition it or translate it. Reichia with a great pro. Zoro versus Mr. 7. Excellent idea. Excellent idea. Sets of Baroque works. Great fight scene to open things up. Great way to introduce Zoro. Is there another big scale pro that you guys can think of? I feel like, in general, the world building was obviously stronger. Just, at the same time, I think that it did make the world feel a little bit small that you had Garp, who's established to be the guy that caught Roger chasing Luffy. It makes sense once it's established that Luffy is his grandson, but still, I don't know. Buggy. Yeah, Buggy was really good. Is he better than manga Buggy, though? I don't know. I don't think he's better. You know what? Maybe he's better than manga Buggy. At least at that point in the story. Because what Buggy becomes later on, with Impel Down and stuff, becoming this, like, this leader of the masses, right? The blind leading the blind. That's not Orangetown. Orangetown Buggy's pretty generic. Orangetown Buggy's really fucking cool in his first scene. When he gets cut by Zoro and everything like that, and he seems like invincible for a bit. But then once it's actually time to fight him and everything, he's a gag villain. For Orangetown, yes, says Paul Valerius. Yeah, I'd say Buggy, by Orangetown context, was cooler here than he was in, like, cooler and funnier here than he was in Orangetown there. But Buggy overall, no. Now, it's pretty important that they picked out such a good actor for Buggy because he's going to be the only recurring figure throughout the rest of the story. Dynamics is pro, no Choo-Choo. I can't put that in the pros. I think that that's definitely the right decision, but at the same time, I still like Choo-Choo. I just dislike that he made a friend of mine stop watching One Piece a few episodes in because he just couldn't believe that this show was so... it's just so cliche anime. It's like exactly what like normies think anime basically is, which is just like... okay, so we're taking an episode to focus on this dog being sad because he lost his treasure. And there's sad-ass music, and the characters can all understand the dog speaking, and we're spending a lot of time with the dog barking at this lion, and it's all. I've got a lot of problems with Choo Choo, but I like Choo Choo personally. I have a problem with him being a gatekeeper to One Piece. I'm gonna say pro Sanji. Sanji's personality, not the whole character, how he was treated. I'll say Sanji's personality. I wonder, do Sanji fans like the live action version of Sanji better than Sanji? I'm curious. Cocoa Village. Yeah, Cocoa Village got done dirty. And it's not even in the light of like, oh, it's not like the manga, therefore I don't like it. I just think that straight up, it's so much easier to care about Kokoyashi Village when you have that little bit of extra added time of just in Nami's backstory in the manga and in the anime of interacting with the people of Kokoyashi Village, and Genzo in particular being very important. Here it's just a vague concept, and it was kind of just like, you know what's really funny? I still loved episode 7. Episode 7, great, got me crying, all of that stuff. But at the end of the episode, it's just like, we were never really meant to care for Kokoyashi Village, but I'm upset because, you know, Nami's upset, and I feel for her, right? So I'm emotionally invested. So she's crying about, like, we got to stop them. They're going to go destroy Kokoyashi Village. They're going to go destroy Kokoyashi Village. So I'm like, I'm all teared up because, you know, she's in the state, etc. And then, like, you know, Luffy and the crew are like, okay, we're going to go save Kokoyashi Village. And then the episode ends with them, like, getting there and, like, the village is already on fire and shit or something. And I'm like, oh my God, it's really going down. And then episode 8 starts with it being revealed that they were already too late. They didn't protect, like, Kokoyashi Village already got destroyed. Like, I think they literally missed the boat on that, right? And it was kind of like, yeah, the whole village got fucked up. But it's kind of just like, okay, so I guess that wasn't a big deal at all. And then the villagers show up and they're like, we're really mad about all of this stuff. And it's just hard to care overall, because it's like, in the one moment that they kind of made me care about the Strauss showing up and, like, potentially defending the villagers, it turns out we missed that. And the houses and like, you know what I mean? Turns out we kind of already missed that. And then the villagers, who we barely know at all, just showing up in a mob being like, Nami, we heard you did a sacrifice. We support you now. You just don't feel anything for that at that point. So I think they missed the moments required to make me invested in the village in general in the first place. And then the one window they had where I felt like it would have been dramatic to see the Strauss show up and stop the fishermen from actually doing anything to the villagers, I think that we, for some reason, skipped that as well. I assume because it would have just been too many people involved. I don't know. Basamel Madawi, thanks for the 5. Gotta get to studying. Gotta get to studying, that's for sure. But I do want to say, Sanji jumps up a country mile without his pervert gag. Ben Beckman was done way too dirty, in my opinion. Yeah, I think this is one of those moments where we can all stop and consider, does Sanji need the pervert gag? I would say no. I think he doesn't need it. I think what his gag was originally was significantly better. Originally in Ace Blue, his gag was just that he has a huge soft spot for women, and he basically thinks that they can, like, he just goes head over heels and all, like, corny and stuff like that when he's around women. But beyond that, he's, like, normally, like, a pretty normal, likable guy, right? The pervert gag is just bad, I think, straight up. I think it is almost, I can't remember a time it has made me laugh in recent memory. In recent memory, I can't think of a time. Ben Beckman was done way too dirty, though. I think we just gotta accept that Lucky Roo is probably gonna be the first mate in this show. Ben Beckman was just not, he wasn't written like the first mate. I think if you're a One Piece live action viewer, here's the thing, like, if you're a live action viewer, you've never seen the series before, and then finally we get to the red-haired pirates, and then they're like, yeah, the first mate, Ben Beckman. You'd be like, who? He's not a character that stands out. He just wouldn't be memorable in any way. I just think that if they were like, yeah, first mate Lucky Roo, this dude that's clearly very, very memorable, that had plenty of good scenes, good lines, good moments, a great design, plenty of camera focus, you'd be like, yeah, obviously this guy's the first mate. If you told me that Ben Beckman wasn't important at all, or like, people just aren't going to remember Ben Beckman. I don't think he was written uh, or showcased in a manner that he would even be recognizable. So I think we should just get used to the idea that Ben Beckman in the show is not going to be the Ben Beckman that we know. I would not be surprised if he is not Shanks' first mate in the show. Because, look, if I'm speaking strictly from... And that doesn't matter, by the way, right? It doesn't fucking matter if Ben Beckman barely has made an appearance in the manga, period. He has very little character to even be spoiling in the first place, right? He's had five pages total of focus throughout the story, right? So I don't want to hear people crying about how they did Ben Beckman. It's not the Ben Beckman I know from the manga. Bitch, you barely even know Ben Beckman in the manga. None of us know Ben Beckman, right? He's just Shanks' first mate who looks cool. That's who he is so far in the story. Now, from the live action perspective, so like you can say they butchered him, but it's like there's barely a character there to butcher, right? If you're gonna do some swapping in character significance, it's fine. You say Lucky Roo's the first mate, not Ben Beckman. That's not a big fucking deal, right? Now, from the live action perspective, I now think it would be pretty much just strictly better to make Lucky Roo the first mate. I think it would be a bad decision to make Ben Beckman the first mate, because for the live action viewers, who are the most important audience for this show, they're not going to remember Ben Beckman. That character doesn't stand out in any way whatsoever. Lucky Roo is the character that stands out, and Yasopp to a degree, especially because it's been built up that he's Usopp's father, right? So you should make Lucky Roo the first mate. There's no reason not to, other than to appease manga fanboys who, I don't know, fanboy over a character that has barely ever done anything, period. So I think, yeah, just Lucky Roo should be the first mate, in my opinion. It would just be better for a viewer experience. Neil Vicaria, thanks for the 5. I thought the whole point of Choo Choo was that it convinced Nami that Luffy was actually a different kind of pirate. Yeah, and that's true. But like, it's also just like, couldn't that kind of like, I'm not trying to change Orangetown in my opinion, like, or anything like that. Like, yeah, I think that's good for that, right? But in the live action, I think it's not needed, you know? Like, it's good for the purpose that it does. Free Ben Beckman. Minfet says, yeah, well, my dad was a part of the Red-Haired Pirates, so you're wrong. Teddy says, nah, Yasopp the Great would make for a better first mate. Yeah, sure. Make Yasopp or Lucky Roo or like a character that they're gonna actually fucking remember. Make them the first mate. Because we're gonna get to a point in the story where like the Red-Haired Pirates come back, and the Red-Haired Pirates come back, and then like it's real, you know, or like you bring back Ben Beckman, and it's just like, Ben Beckman, the legendary first mate of Red-Haired Shanks, and every live action viewer's response is just gonna be like, who? New character? Who is this guy? When we must have joined Shanks' crew sometime between season 1 and season 3 or some shit. You know what I also think is possible? I think it's very likely that like we get the Red-Haired Pirates again over the course of season 2. I wouldn't be surprised if we get Mihawk shown again over the course of season 2. The simple reason being, like, these are all actors that are, you know, they're cast, right? So you kind of keep them on certain contracts and stuff like that, and if you can call them back in, you probably do. You know, like, it's a little weird to be an actor who shows up in season 1, and then it's like, okay, Mihawk, you're on standby now. 5 years from now, we might give you a phone call, basically, to make like a 2-minute appearance again, right? So I think it's just more likely once you've cast certain actors that they just become more prominent throughout the story. Not necessarily in big roles, but just to keep them coming back and giving them some work or something. But I might be wrong on that. Solon Style says, things like Kid Zoro being smaller than Kuina, so Kuina feels legitimacy in her argument that Zoro being a man will eventually surpass her via anatomy. In live action, Zoro is already bigger, LMAO. Yeah, it was kind of funny to me. I was wondering, I was like, are they going to establish that Kuina is older than Zoro? Or do they think that doesn't matter that much? And then, like, this Zoro kid is just like, just like a grown-ass kid. Like, he's a grown-ass kid bullying this girl. It's a good thing. Good. Kick his ass. This seems a little unfair. First mate eater. Wakiki says no, Alabasta needs time. I definitely agree that, of course, Alabasta needs time, but I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if, like these are real people, right? These aren't drawings or animations, so you're casting them. You did a lot of work to cast them. Viewers really like them. They want to see more of them. I think it is just likely that we get to see bits of them, right? I'm not saying like we get a whole like Mihawk versus an Admiral fight written in or something like that. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if we get to see Shanks, Mihawk characters like these a little bit more frequently than we do in the manga, just because. And I wouldn't be surprised if like certain side roles end up going to. Nah, I'm getting too far ahead in all this, but I don't know. John678 says L child actors felt no emotions. Yeah, but they're child actors. Leave them alone. Child actors, I think, are almost never good. So it's just like, what do you even say? Kino the Far, thanks for the 2. Feel like Shanks' Conqueror's Haki should have been more prominent. It's hard to say because I've watched reactions. Again, like I really try and judge a lot of like how other people view things. Like are not like taking their opinions as what the opinion, but like how other people are interpreting the world and story of One Piece through reactions, right? Of non-One Piece fans. So again, I keep bringing up like, oh, most people I saw thought that Mihawk killed Zoro, or not killed Zoro, but most people I saw thought that moment where Mihawk slashes Zoro, like I saw legitimate worry and concern from a lot of people, basically, right? So I'm like, oh yeah, that's like just a blind viewer's view of stuff like that. That's interesting. So I did go and see people reacting to the Shanks Sea King scene, and I think most people noticed that he did something there, And I think one person I think even said something like, "Oh, does he have a devil fruit? He must have a devil fruit." If they thought about it, it wouldn't make sense because Shanks clearly swam there, but I think it was clear that Shanks did something, but they couldn't play up too much what it was, I know Jagrawal says I really liked Sanji's child actor. I thought Sanji's child actor was decent. I thought he was fine. I think Zoro's child actor was not good. I thought Sanji's child actor was good. For a child actor, pretty good. John678, thanks for the 2. Con, no introduction of 3 great powers dynamic. Sometimes even I forget that like 3 great powers is explained right there, right? It is what is it? It's chapter 54, maybe 54, 58. Oh no. Way later. I'm thinking of something else. Maybe like 65 or something. Let me see. It is 70? What chapter is this shit? Let's see. I forget that half the Straw Hat Crews are at Arlong Park pretty early. Let's see, where does he explain this stuff? But the 3 great powers, I think that would be like just dropping a bit too much on live action viewers early on, because dropping the idea of the 7 warlords, and they explain the 7 warlords more clearly here. Like they went into a more in-depth explanation, and it's clear that the lore around the 7 warlords is a bit different. So they're thinking of something a little bit different in this world than in the anime version, right? So I think adding on to that like, oh, there's this, it's only one of 3 great powers, I think that's it's just over exposition at that point, because you've established what you needed to establish, which is the warlords exist, there is an interesting dynamic or balance between the world government and pirates. That is kind of suspect, and there's greater like powers and enemies in the world in general to look forward to. You know? Where the fuck is this chapter where the three great powers are explained? Where the Shichibukai are explained? Where the fuck is this? Man. Okay, no, I found it. Pretty sure it's this chapter. Okay. So, yeah, in the same chapter, Yosaku, or is it Johnny? I don't know. He's explaining the three great powers rule over the Grand Line. One of them is the seven warlords. I don't think it's necessary to explain that there's three. I think that that's something that's a reveal that can be saved for a little bit later. I think just breaking down the warlords is interesting enough to begin with, because they went more in depth into it. So Random says three great powers is post Enies Lobby, isn't it? No, so it's explained that there are three when the warlords are explained back in East Blue, but we just don't find out what the other two are just yet. So I can see why they decided for a Western audience. Maybe it's too much to be this cryptically vague that, like, there's three, I'm only going to tell you about one now, and this one has seven, and these seven warlords, here's the whole story, because then it's just, I don't know, you can find out about the other two later, I think. Oh shit, it's 9 p.m. Alright, I do have something I gotta do, which means I do have to wrap stream. Let me see if there's any quick things to answer real quick. Quick things to answer real quick. I think we're basically good. Yeah, yeah, Yosaku explains the Shichibukai, but he introduces it by explaining there are three great powers, one of which is the Shichibukai, and then he doesn't tell us the other two. And we actually don't know the other two till literally like 350 chapters later, which is kind of fucking crazy. No Moji and Mumu. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I legitimately believed that we would get Momu. For some reason. I wasn't like disappointed when we didn't get Momu, because I logically understood that that was an irrational desire that we would get this fucking giant ass sea cow. The Sea King, by the way, I thought was good. I thought that the way that they did the Sea King was excellent, and the reality is, for the budget that they had to work with, TV budget, right? The reality is, Sea King is a million times more intimidating in live action format than just like a cartoon or like a manga panel, right? Because there you're dealing with already, you know, just drawn illustrated world. Like seeing the giant ass Sea King in real life is fucking crazy. So I thought that was really good. But that's also why I thought that they might be able to pull off Momu. So I was looking forward to seeing Momu in Arlong Park, and then the Arlong Park battle is progressing, and I'm like, shit. Obviously we're not getting Momu. That would have been a bit too much, but you know. Alright guys, sorry for a bit of an abrupt ending, but I did have to set a timer for this stream, so I gotta take care of some stuff. But yeah, thanks guys. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We get regularly scheduled One Piece manga chapters back starting Wednesday, I guess. And yeah, the live action did really well to, I guess, tide us over for a little bit. But back to our regularly scheduled programming from here on. All right, guys. I will talk to you all